I cannot believe I'm about to tell you this story. Only 4 or 5 months ago, I didn't even think this was possible. And now I get to tell you something incredible. I started dynamiting from $300 I borrowed from my dad. I created a line of magnetic jewelry, became a viral hit on YouTube, invented the Mighty Wallet, became one of Inc.'s fastest growing companies, and came to this what I thought was a zenith of my career as an entrepreneur, with this burgeoning company on the point of like unimagined success. And I'd taken a month-long vacation in the south of France, what I thought was going to be like a whole new chapter of my life. Well, it was, just not the one I expected. It was an ominous thing that when we arrived the first day, my now ex-wife's best friend committed suicide. Through that trip, it was just more and more signs of foreboding bad things to come. And upon my return to New York, my wife then decided to move out. I was suddenly a single dad to 2 kids, taking care of them full time, running Dynamite kind of as I could. I mean, things happen. Life changes. That's okay. But it was just the series of events that happened. Like, no more than I think it was a week later that the factory in China that I worked with just disappeared. The owner takes all the money and is gone overnight. When you're confronted with these things in business, it's like you just address them and that's all you can do. You can't wallow over it. But what happened was, more than just the business. My father got throat cancer. My mom got a staph infection in her hip. My grandmother who raised me, Rosnell, passed away. All of these things happened within 3 months. It just felt like the entire world was unraveling before me. And I kind of didn't know what was going to happen next. It was terrifying. I remember waking up at the edge of my bed in the morning just thinking oh my God, what could I do? What am I going to do? And feeling completely overwhelmed. I just, at that point, decided to stay very focused on being happy, forcing myself to give myself something to focus on for that day, that I could get through the day without having to concentrate on all the things that were happening around me. So whether it was the beautiful fall leaf, or rain outside, which is kind of a miracle, or a picture, or a quote, which became my sort of hobby at the time, obsessing over quotes, printing them out on Post-its, posting them on my walls. That was my survival mechanism, was to stay in this bubble of positivity while all this was happening. I just stayed on that positive tip, doing affirmations, visualizations, really believing, and actually in some ways kind of getting through where I thought I was going to make Dynamite a big success again. Things only further declined, unfortunately. My eldest daughter got a severe separation anxiety. It's kind of hard to describe. It's not like, hey, you don't want to stay at school. It's like your kid cannot be physically separated from you, or they believe that they might die. If I was to take a shower, I had to keep talking to her through the doors so that she didn't think I was going to disappear. There was nothing that I could do to fight that fight for her. And it was the hardest thing, I think, as a parent, to sit there and to to witness the trauma, emotional trauma in your child. All those skills that I had learned about affirmations, about, positive thinking, were just like, here, babe, this is what we're going to do. And so that's what we did for about 6 months. I had to work from an AV cart in the hallway outside her school while she stayed in the classroom, because it was the only way that she would feel comfortable enough to be in class. So here I am, trying to save my business from a laptop on an AV cart. Like, and kids are like coming up behind me like, hey, mister, what are you doing? Oh my God. It was crazy. I couldn't hold it together. The business further declined. I lost Barnes & Noble. I lost Whole Foods, my most major accounts. I was at risk of not honoring my obligations under the loan that I had, this $1 million loan. Things kept unraveling. So eventually I couldn't keep up, and I did everything I could. I cut my salary more than half. I was renting my bedroom for 2 years just to be able to keep this apartment, because I didn't want us to have to move. I slept on the couch for 3 years, I think. Eventually, the loan did default, and it went into collections. And I thought for sure that was it. I was going to lose the business, that I was going to lose my brand, the company, all that I've put into this, my blood, sweat, and tears for years, was going to be gone. It was terrifying to me, because it just felt like I put so much into this and it was just going to vanish. That's a terrifying feeling. I thought I was going to have to move in with my dad. And I was just like, oh my God. But again, keeping myself positive was what really saved my ass. At the time, I was running around putting up the Be Mighty flyers, and those of you who haven't seen the Be Mighty Project, you can check it out, BeMightyProject.com. But it was a way for me to not only stay focused on something positive with the quotes, the inspirational words of wisdom, and that practice of daily and weekly sort of revisiting those quotes and surrounding myself with those ideas kept me focused on something instead of being overwhelmed. It also gave me a feeling of empowerment, because it flipped the script on this feeling of being powerless, like having no control over my environment. And then suddenly now I have something to give, and I'm getting something back in return. People loved it. They loved the people who saw me in the street. They'd be like, oh, you're doing that? That's such a cool thing. I love those quotes. This one really helped me, and da-da-da. That was a project that saved my butt. And it's almost like, in a way too, the quotes felt like, each one of those quotes was by somebody who also had some incredible experience in their life. And I began to think of it as like climbers on a mountain. When a climber goes up a mountain, the first climber to scale any particular path, they would leave the anchor points in the mountain so that other climbers can follow in their footsteps and, choose whether they want to use the anchor point or not. But to me, those quotes became anchor points on my own ascension, climbing this very steep cliff, being able to hold on to each one of them as I move through this seemingly insurmountable obstacle, and this like a sheer face challenge. It kept me anchored to who I am and to everything outside of what was important. The business, money, your apartment, all that stuff. It's love, your family. The people around you is what really matters. And you learn that. You learn that the most when you learn that what matters the most in your life is not determined by value. It's by those that around you that you love. That's what really matters. That's what's really valuable, is your love, your relationships, the people in your life as a dad, as a single dad. Those were the values that kept me focused. And that project kept me in that mindset of like, this is happening for some sort of reason. Despite everything that was happening around me, I just stayed positive. It was like unreal. And it taught me like a resilience and strength that I didn't even know I was capable of. And then the pandemic hit, and I had to move out of the office in Brooklyn, which actually turned out to be the most fortuitous thing ever, because I didn't have another rent. I moved everything into my apartment. I now could afford my apartment. I didn't have to pay for babysitters, and it was the best thing I could have ever done. But at the beginning of 2021 was when the collections agents started appearing. It wasn't the first time that I had been served before. I kind of knew what I was in for. You know, they come with intention. But I had been prepared because during the riots of the summer, I had installed some security cameras in the hallway, so I knew who was in the hallway, what was going on. So I could see these guys coming. And it became kind of a game between me and, the kids while someone's pounding on the door. It's like, how quiet could we be? The funny thing about my apartment, too, is that I have 2 doors. Don't tell any collections agents. But, so they would come pounding on the first door, and whenever the first door was blocked, I just used this back door here. And one time the serviceman was there. I had gone out to empty the garbage, and as I came back, he was pounding on the front door, and he goes, "Kellerman?" And I just pointed to the front door and just walked into the back one. And he just continued pounding on the door. And this went on for like 6 months. I mean, these guys were getting really frustrated. So they started upping their game. They would send like AM delivery packages, signature only. Even my drivers knew that, like, what was up. And so they would just slip it under the door. It got to the point where there were two dudes standing in the doorway of the building one day and just questioning every person that came in or out. Have you doing Terrence Coleman? I mean, I was like, whoa, this is going to be really hard to get through. I said at that point, I'm going to reach out to a lawyer, going to make an offer before this thing goes to court, and then the expenses really get out of control, because I was still barely squeaking through. So we put an offer together, about 4% of what I owed. But I'm standing in the parking lot in the summer when I got the call, and it was my lawyer saying that they accepted the offer. And I cannot tell you, I was just, my kids must have been like, what is happening? Because I was just smiling and so happy, but crying and kind of laughing and joyous. First thing my eldest daughter said is, "Does this mean we can use the front door again?" So yes, babe, we can use the front door. Yeah, $1 million in debt. It was more than losing the debt, though. It was regaining my ability to dream. You know, I built Dynamiting from pure inspiration and not knowing what I could do, but dreaming about it. And having that incredible debt over your head is like, you can't dream, you can't imagine anything else. Like, I just thought I'd be 70 years old still paying that debt off. And to have it released from me, it's just given me such an incredible new outlook on life, on the company, and it's given me hope. Getting through those times has been one of the most intense and incredible experiences of my life. I have to thank you too. The support that you guys gave me, I mean, it's incredible. The messages, the emails, and I know you guys didn't know what was going on. It was just like, but you would say the kindest things about the products or about me or the service or the company or the brand, and you didn't know it was affecting me so profoundly, but it was, and it just saved me and saved my kids, it saved my business, and it saved my dreams, and for that I thank you. You know, we can't do anything without our imagination, without dreams. That's what I knew as an artist, is that you have to be inspired. You know, when I look back now on the great storms of my life, you know, periods where I've gone through like challenges, you know, as soon as a storm comes, what we do is we seek shelter, we get out of there. We run from the rain, we run from the stiff winds, we run from the lightning, from the thunder. We're terrified that we're going to be struck by lightning. We're terrified of dying. It's existential to us. We also need to realize is that the storm passes and that the storm isn't there to destroy us. The storm has come to uproot our old, outdated ways of being. The storm has come to clear the path, to clear the rubble, clear the debris from the streets, from our minds, to free ourselves. The storm has come also to nourish the soil, to enrich in it with drenching water so that we may plant the seeds of hope. I do have great hope for Dynamiting again. And I also have hope for new things, and I'm planting new seeds. Right now, as we speak, I'm working on new projects, which I'll share with you more in the future, next few weeks probably. So if you want to join me on those next adventures, please, let's do it. Let's make something awesome. Be well, be safe, be mighty.